take his cross and follow after me is not worthy of me. He who has found his life will lose it. He who has lost his life for my sake will find it. Matthew 10:38. As you think about the fact that we want to hang on to a way of life, we want to hang on to that field, we want to hang on to the treasure we already have, we want to keep the pearls that are already in our collection. We're not prepared to sell all of that to come to have Jesus valued as the most important thing. Jesus says that's another evidence in that passage that he who does not take his cross and follow after me is not worthy of me. He who has found his life will lose it. That person who said, I'm happy with the pearls I have, I'm happy with the field that I own, that person will wind up eternally separated from God. That's what Jesus was warning us about on either side of that passage. In Colossians 1:13, we have some context we had to add to this. We're reaching back into the passage. So for he, the Father, if you look at the passage, it's up there. The Father rescued us from the domain of darkness and transferred us to the kingdom of his beloved Son. His beloved Son in whom? So within Jesus, in whom we have redemption. Redemption comes from Jesus. The forgiveness of sins. He, Jesus, is the image of the invisible God, the firstborn of all creation. For by him all things were created, both in heavens and on earth, visible and invisible, whether thrones or dominions or rulers or authorities. All things have been created through him and for him. So how important is Jesus? Think about it. How valuable is Jesus? Well, let's see it. Jesus was the one who created everything, and it was all created for him. Then how important should Jesus be to you and to me? Would you be here today without Jesus? No. Would there be anything good in your life at all if it weren't for Jesus? And so as we think about what that means, and the fact that he is playing a particular role in our lives, we see that as creator. We see that as the one who reveals God to us. We see that as the one who is in charge of all the principalities and powers throughout all of the spiritual realm and in the physical realm as we know it. The passage goes on to say, he, Jesus, is before all things, and in him all things hold together. How important is Jesus? Well, if Jesus let go of the molecular and he just said, we're done with that, what would happen to all of us? Whoop, we'd be gone. He's important. He's holding everything together. But he is also the head of the body, the church. And he is the beginning, the firstborn from the dead, so that he himself will come to have first place in everything. Now, Jesus is not coming into existence having first place by being raised from the dead. This is a passage talking about the reality of, like Jesus being baptized. Did Jesus need to be baptized, John? No. In fact, what did John say? Why am I baptizing you? You should be baptizing me. But Jesus did it first so that we would understand that we were following his example. And Jesus also is raised from the dead, not because he himself sinned and had to be saved and had to be changed in some way, but he has life in himself. And resurrection is what Easter is about, what he is showing us about himself. He is going to be the one that we will follow as head of the church. Now, we're going to make a little point today, if we can. You guys have had a chance, or ladies, to think about what sportsmanship is. Anybody? Raise a hand that can come and find out what sportsmanship is. Anybody? Oh, okay. Well, I'll get Paul on the way to George.
Remain humble whether you win or lose.
Okay, remain humble whether you win or lose. you thinking now?
Play the game by the rules, and I have one very similar to Paul. If you're a winner, you need to be a humble winner. If you're a loser, you need to be a happy loser.
All right. Someone else? Good stuff. Okay, Gina. Got you here. There you go.
Be an encouragement that others and understanding when you see someone struggle or stumble.
All right. So being concerned about teammates and sometimes actually for the other team. Okay. Did y'all hear the story this last week about that was given about no, this was a story that was told this week. It happened back in the fall. Nice Lucado told the story. It was about the football team from Gainesville, which is the detention center for boys. And the 12 guys come out for the team. And there are 12 guards, one for each student. And they get to play regular high school teams. They're allowed to do that. And so what happened is that this particular city felt so bad for this group of guys that they all agreed that the cheerleaders, the band, and all the people of the city were going to root for Gainesville that game against their own team. And so they cheered and rallied and did the whole thing for them. And they said that the guys were just so blown away they couldn't believe that people would care about them that much. Interesting. Someone else? Horsemanship? Okay. Here, I have two. Michelle, get Susan.
In Upward Basketball, they teach them a lot of things about sportsmanship. And, like my son, he would stop the other team's player would fall or something. Sometimes he'd be in the middle of the side game, he'd stop and help them out.
Okay, so helping up other team members, and that's more likely to happen in Upward than it's going to happen in college. Right? You have to keep it close. What are you doing?
Doing unto others as you would have them do unto you.
All right. Anyone else? Well, we probably have covered a number of the things. Let's just say we're going to make a little transition now and move from the word sportsmanship to a word that I haven't heard anywhere except in preacher circles for a long time, and that is the word churchmanship. Churchmanship. What is that? I mentioned it this week and someone said to me, that's not a word. It's not? Churchmanship. If we make an application and we say that as the church, that is the body of Christ, of which Jesus himself is the head, and we don't value him as primary, that would be like saying we had a baseball team that really doesn't like baseball, a basketball team that hasn't made its primary focus basketball. We have a football team that really is much more interested in cheerleaders than football. And that may be the case. But when you're in the game, you're supposed to focus on the game. And as the body of Christ, as the church, we have this opportunity in this lifetime alone. We can't do this after we die. We can't do this in eternity. We can represent Jesus as the body of Christ, as the church, now and only now. And good churchmanship means that we play the game well. We play it by the rules. We play it by the rules not to keep from breaking the rules, but because that's how the game is supposed to be played. We play the game by caring for each other. And when somebody stumbles, then we help them up. We play the game doing unto others as God would have us do, doing unto others as we would have others do unto us. We have all of these same concepts of sportsmanship, which we understand. How much commitment is there going to be to the game? If I'm in football, I would show up in the dead heat of summer. I would work out in the weight room. I would go outside and I would do 2-a-days, one in the morning, one late in the evening. I would go out there and bang my head and everything else against all these people to move this little leather orb from one end of the field to the other. I will sacrifice blood and sweat and tears and go through everything to accomplish that goal. How important is Jesus to his church? And so as we think about our churchmanship, what kind of sportsmanship you have in athletics may be an important thing to you as a Christian. What kind of churchmanship do you have? Do you see in your life the fruit of the Spirit where you've submitted yourself to God? And it's not that you have these things within yourself, but God does these things in you, that there's love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, faithfulness, self-control. Are these things a part of who you are? You see, that's the spirit of what it means to have good churchmanship, that the Spirit of God is working through our life and people see the Spirit of God. Is the Spirit of God manifesting himself in you as a believer in some way that is a spiritual giftedness? Are you an encourager? Are you a teacher? Are you a person who has some spiritual giftedness that you know is how the Spirit of God shows up through you in a supernatural way? If it was baseball and I said, well, what's your position in baseball? Well, I kind of just wander around out there. No, I remember that. I played that in Little League. No, I know what my position is. And somebody can say, well, right field. Right field. Who cares? Whoever hits anything out there. Well, somebody hit something out there and all of a sudden what do you want? A really good right fielder. Right? And so you may say, well, I'm not that important. Do you realize that if you're on the team of the body of Christ and Jesus is the head, if he is important to us, we should be knowing what our position is, what we're supposed to be doing it, and we should be doing it his way with our whole heart. Amen. That's what it's all about. That's what our churchmanship is all about. Sometimes when we evaluate where we are, how do we get our hands on this? Why am I this way? Am I apathetic? Am I caught up in the circumstances of life? How did these other things get to be so important? Or maybe I'm a new Christian and I'm just learning about all this. And how do I make Jesus number one in my life? How do I start putting him first? So that when I think about money, I think about the fact that I want to give him 10% of everything that he's given me as a minimal display of who he is as a God who provides. And if I then have the opportunity to give offerings beyond that, to be able to honor him in that way. Why? Because he's number one. Well, boy, that's tough. How do I get there? My financial situation and all that. If you want to honor God in that way and you ask him to help you, he will. Because he wants you to experience everything he has for you. Whether it's in that area of your life, whether it's in your sexuality, whether it is in the relationships that you have with friends at work, whether it's in your witness and your ability to share your faith, whatever it is, God wants you to be victorious. He wants you to succeed. He, as the head of the body of Christ, is cheering us on and providing us his power and his strength and his joy and his love to be able to accomplish the things he set before us to do. And so, personally, I see a verse like Romans 1:16. And I have to say, when I see that verse, there it is. I don't like that verse sometimes. Because I have to ask myself, well, I know Paul's not ashamed of the gospel. And he understands that it's the power of God for salvation to everyone who believes. But do I really believe that? I want you to understand something about the other team as you look at that verse. The principalities and powers of darkness, which we battle in an unseen realm. Know that there's only one way to be successful in their war against you and me. It's not by killing us. By killing us, they would simply move us into the glorious presence of Jesus. So that's not exactly what they would have in mind. There's only one way that they could win, and that is to make us silent. If we can walk around this world supposedly following Jesus, who is the head of the church, and never talk about Him, never share the good news, never reach out to anyone with the love of Christ, if we do not do that, they have succeeded because they have simply made us silent. Whether it's your pastor or whoever else in the body of Christ, when they make us silent, they have won. We don't want them to win. So we must open our mouths. We must share the good news. I want you to see a song. And I know it's kind of little, but I wanted it all in one slide. How many of y'all know this song? Okay. We're going to sing it during the invitation, but I want us to look at it for a moment. Because can we sing this song honestly? Maybe